Be great. No. So, where are the worst locals of anywhere you've met? Like the worst, the most unpleasant people. Like even if the place they live is great, the people themselves, where to avoid.
I think I can't really name a
Elayna,
place.
why don't you take this
No,
one?
I can't really name a place right now, but what I'm about to say will probably help me lead to my own answer. The places where people sort of disrespect you is where you don't know their language, you know, and you sailing, you go from country to country, people speak different languages, you can't be expected to know every single language, so they just sort of look down on you for not being able to speak the language. We do a lot of charades, so I've found that those countries, which I can understand.
That's like every country we've ever been. Bite the bullet and tell them a place that you didn't like the people.
Say
Even
it.
if it's America.
It wouldn't be,
I
though.
would probably say, you know what? I loved Cape Verde. It's a bunch of islands off Africa. It's very isolated, very different from anything I've ever experienced before. It's a very new sort of culture. As a girl, I found it very uncomfortable walking around by myself. The men were very aggressive with how they approached you. I'd been followed around by men when Riley wasn't with me.
I don't know if you've been to either Portugal or I think Argentina and Brazil do it as well. They've got this thing where they hiss. So if they, and this is how, like, it's a cultural thing and that's cool, but it doesn't really, when they're doing it to foreigners, it's really...
They hiss at you like...
Yes, it's very abrasive when you hit like it's...
And at first I was like, is this, you know,
what
is
fuck
that
is
noise?
happening
And
here?
I realised it was coming from these men's
So
mouth.
what does the hiss indicate? Like, I'm down if you are? Or, like...
Yeah, it's the equivalent of honking a horn or something in Western.
But
That's what they
don't
do
just
because they
it
don't
like-
have cars. Not very receptive girls to catcalling. What is that? Is it a bug?
So yeah, I found that very uncomfortable, and it's a place, well, certain islands in Cape Verde I will not go back to, the ones that were more built up, and it's sort of like they're sort of confused, like there's the American influence, like they've got the music, they've got the...
My question for you is why you're so kind about this. You're like, you know, it's a very lovely place. A little rapey, but otherwise nice.
Because I try and see it from their perspective, you know, like I'm a white girl in their country. They don't see tourists very often. It's not a place that many people go to. Like there's not regular flights going in and out. It's more.
Let me stop you there.
Place.
Do you think if a green person showed up nearby me, I wouldn't be like, you know, I don't see a lot of green people.
I want some green pussy. Come on.
right. Like I wouldn't just get rapey because, like, you know, there was somebody new to me.
Come on, break off some of that green pussy.
I don't know.
No, because where they are in their culture, a girl would turn around and, you know, maybe hiss back and.
I'd like to think she'd growl.
That's how they propagate.
I'd like to think she'd take the dog roll, like a grrr, and just cut that short. No,
It's awful. I hate this. I hate that. Why are you giving them that benefit of the doubt? Fuck them. They shouldn't be hissing at you. Because like you said, if they came to your country, if a beautiful woman from their country came and walked down an Australian beach, there wouldn't be a bunch of Aussies hissing at them. They wouldn't be over there slamming Fosters and hissing at the brown chick. That wouldn't happen because you're decent people.
Okay, but that might be to do with the level of education that they're lacking. It could be to do with a whole bunch of different reasons, which, you know.
Wow, still apologizing for the rapey
No one's
culture over there.
not the rapist yet.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. It's very.
No
it's
one
fucked
raped
up.
anyone. No one
It's
got
fucked
raped.
up. Like I hate it, and I'm not. I don't know. I just,
You should hate
still
it.
Can't hate these
That's a
particular
shitty
people.
thing
I
to
can't
do to
hate-
someone.
No, but you can't travel. You can't travel into those countries and expect for things like that not to happen. And if you're going to get upset every time it does, then you shouldn't travel.
I went to Puerto Rico, and every step of the way, I felt like they were trying to rip me off. Constantly, just nonstop, like, rip me off. You know, they'd be like, all right, you know, there's 4 of you, and we normally charge $2 a person, but we'll just, you know, group package 10. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I can't do 4 times 2? Like, every step of the way, they were just a lot of times it was math mistakes. Sometimes it was, I don't know, just
Yeah, they do take advantage of you.
They just every step of the way, and I still and then so I went there for this. I was a collegiate swimmer, and we would walk to the pools, and I swear if the girls weren't with all the guys, they'd be in real danger. Like the guys were like hanging out of their cars and honking and slowing down at like when they shouldn't be. And
on the whole education thing, my friend Jeremy, who can barely read and write, would treat you like a complete gentleman if he met you for the first time. I guarantee it. There's no one I know who's less educated.
You mean he wouldn't throw in even one rape hiss?
No hisses? No hiss? He would be a complete gentleman. It's definitely a cultural
I don't hiss
thing.
at women I'm unfamiliar with. Oh,
look, sometimes there are cultures. Sometimes there are cultures of assholes, and I mean, nobody has a problem saying the French are assholes because they're white. Nobody has a problem saying the French Canadians are assholes because they're white. But every time some brown people maybe do something that we're not comfortable with, we're like, oh, there's poor impoverished guys. Fuck, if only they had more, they would know not to do this to us.
When you describe it like that...
No more white guilt for me. I'm done with it. I'm done with it.
So do you think if you gave them more money, they would just be Saudi Arabia? Attacking and using better weapons?
You just took down an avenue I wasn't prepared for.
Here we go.
I'm going to stand on what I said, and I'm going to let you go now.
No, not walking down little training camps.
I stepped out as far to the ledge as I care to go at this moment.
Sissy.
No, I want to see this hill that you're both dying on. Keep going.
I just don't like that. I don't like apologizing for rude behavior of others. I don't like rude behavior.
No, you're right. It's condescending, too, because then it's like, oh, no, he didn't know what he was doing. Like, he's, we're people. Like.
Meanwhile, those guys are back there, like, you see
like
that, man? I fucking hissed at her. I gave her that. And they're like, yeah,
but
man, you got her good.
You guys have, I don't know, each of you, if you have done this yourselves, but you guys have been out of the country, you've experienced different cultures, and you know the difference between yours and another country. These people have never left the island they've lived on their whole lives. They don't know any different. They barely have TVs, They don't have a radio. Their music that they listen to is like from the So Fresh CD of freaking 1990. I wasn't even born in 1990, but, it's very old shit. They're so far behind, and
rape was not okay in 1990 either.
No.
If they're jamming out to some 1890, think it's a Bach, then I could get on board. But no, like just because they're jamming to Vanilla Ice doesn't excuse their actions.
No, but all they did was hiss, and we found it offensive. But they may or may not have considered it offensive when they were doing it. I'm sure that some of them did, and they may have taken it out of control.
There's also alcohol abuse. There's a lot of different things going on. They're not.
There's a whole group of dudes called the Groggers. There's this thing there called grog,
it's alcohol,
and
it's sugar cane. It's brutal.
Honestly, I've been to a few places and they're like, have the alcohol here. You'll have 2 shots and you'll be passing out. You have 2 shots of this stuff and you are spastic.
We do not remember a thing.
We were driving the tender home and going around in circles, and we jumped on this other French dude's boat and he was naked, and then we jumped off again, and then we went to this other place, and there was...
Anyway, the alcohol there is it's just
for real.
It's the good stuff.
It's like toxic.
There's something else in there.
Yeah, maybe there is.
We have a bottle of it on board, but I don't think we're going to open it.
We're too scared
to
open it.
Save that for a special occasion.
Taylor, I know this is kind of out of place for them because they don't know who this guy is, but I had this funny idea of you calling a poison control place as Quebble Cop and trying to explain to them that you'd been drugged. But every time they ask what drugs you took, you're like, no, I didn't take drugs.
I don't have to do this. I only have the drug that they gave me. Like, Quebble Cop is one of our Danish friends, and I make fun of him sometimes because he takes drugs and then pretends that he didn't know the drugs were in whatever he was eating. Like, what he'll do is he told us this story of like, oh yeah, I was at this party and I got drugged, and we were like, oh, that's crazy, man, because he's in somewhere where weed is legal, and we were like, what happened? Like, he just fed you something you didn't know? And he's like, no, they tell me that they're drugging the cookie, and so I go over and I ate the cookie. It's like, wait, so you didn't get drugged at all. He gave you a cookie full of drugs and said, "Here's the drug
No,
cookie."
that's not exactly it.
Yes, I eat the drug cookie.
The way the story actually goes is, like someone gives him a cookie, and he, for whatever reason, he has a suspicion it's a pot cookie, and he's like, "Is this a pot cookie?" And they're like, "Oh no, it's not." And he's, "Ah, okay," and then he eats the whole
All
cookie.
those huge house parties you go to where there's just trays of normal baked goods laying around. You know, all those you go to. Like, no, of course. You're throwing a big rager and there's a tray of, snickerdoodles on the counter. Something's up. You know?
I liked that a lot. I really like.
I like him a lot.
His accent makes everything funnier.
Oh yeah, I
You
love
do
that.
it so well. I love listening to you do his act. I like listening to you
Yeah.
do his accent better than having him on the show. I would prefer it if you just did the accent for like 20 minutes a show, and then we don't even need Quebblecop.
So we never have to have him back as a guest. I'll just pretend to be him, once every 3 months. And
I'd love that.
I like having him as a guest.
I'd like you to do like a Euro look when you're Quebblecop, though, like really slicked back hair, like
a mesh shirt. Something that they
yes, like Mac, something with the nipples showing. I like that, nips and hips, baby. Yeah,
very tight jeans. I don't have any tattoos. I think that's European, right?
I don't
I
know.
don't even know.
When we were in Bonaire, that was a Dutch island, and we met this guy that recognised us, and he was saying to us, "Oh, you must have lots of fun on the boat. You must really enjoy the boat."
They add like 6 extra vowels in the beginning. That is that 3 or 4 A's? Yeah.
I'd like to hear this. Who is it? Quebblecop.
Mhm.
Yeah, really cool guy.
Yep.
Yes.